Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Rob. This is another rapid fire marketing and advertising video. The video series for business owners who want more leads, more sales, more market share. You want to scale your business, or you could be the serious student of marketing and you want an alternative source or an alternative resource. I'll get it out eventually for your marketing and advertising. On this particular video, I'm going to be speaking about how branding will kill your business faster than you can say, "How's your father?" Now, there's two different types of marketing and advertising, which I illustrated in the very first video that I shot way back when. So you have branding and you have direct response. What I would advocate, and this is and the reason why I'm doing this particular video, is this whole thing about branding keeps coming up, building a brand. And Gary Vee recently done a video that I saw on social media only a few days ago, where he was talking about building the brand and the advantages of building a brand. Branding and institutional advertising, to me, as a direct response marketer, is the biggest waste of money on the planet, because you're literally flushing money down the toilet. Here is why. There's no call to action. It's all about the positioning of the brand, the logo, the corporate colors. It's all about the mission statement. It's all this, what I call fluffy shit, that really doesn't have a benefit to the entire process. It's just to simply remind people that we're out here and we just want to let you know that we're here, but we don't necessarily want you to be buying our products or services. We're just here, just to simply remind you that we're here. That's the whole point of branding. There's no actual function of branding in itself. And there are some people within the marketing and advertising community who will say that branding, there's a whole science to it, and it's mega corporations use it and blah, 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 blah. Well, at the end of the day, regardless of the size of business, you still need sales, because without sales, you don't have cash flow. And if you don't have cash flow, you can't pay your bills, you can't pay your employees, you can't pay your work cover, you can't pay your superannuation or 401k, you can't pay shit. So as far as I'm concerned, and spending I've only been in direct response since 1998, so it's really not that long in the scheme of in the term of things. All I can say is, from having worked with a variety of business owners, the most effective, the most efficient, and the most powerful form of advertising and marketing is direct response. Because as the name suggests, direct response, there is an immediate, almost instantaneous response to your marketing and advertising. If you're using the internet, sometimes the same day. If you have your own email list, you can punch out an email, and within about a 24-hour to 72-hour lead time from punching out that email, you will know that the offer that you have just sent out has been at all successful. You don't get that with branding. In fact, the only thing you'll get with branding is an empty bank account. And I couldn't give a shit what anyone has to say, because like I said before, the only thing that branding or image advertising focuses on is just to remind people we're out here. We don't necessarily want you to purchase our products or services, but we're just out here. We're out here having a good time. We don't necessarily want you to run out straight away or jump online and make a purchase or a booking or anything else. We're just out here, circling around, just hoping that you might, when you are thinking about a product or service, we hope that you just select us. Well, all I can say to that is that's the biggest waste of resources and time I can ever put my thoughts to. Selling is selling no matter what. If you have a product or service and you have a demand for that product or service, and not only do you have a demand, but those people who are the demand, which is the market, they have the money for that product or service, God damn it, you owe it to yourself and that market to stand in front of them and say, "Hey guys, I've got exactly what you want and here is why I'm the person that you need to get it from. Here are all the reasons why. Here are all the benefits to having this particular product or service. Here is how you can order, and here is what happens when you get that product or service, and here is your money back guarantee. Here are the terms and conditions of getting a refund. Direct response is all about not slick advertising like image advertising and branding is. Direct response is always talking about the benefits, because people buy benefits of the product or service of that particular company. So what you need to get your heads around is, don't worry about branding. Branding is actually a byproduct, a natural byproduct of sales. So without sales, you will never get to the branding stage at all. And when you do get to that branding stage, that typically happens when you start to become like Pepsi and Coca-Cola, when you start to become like GM or Chevrolet, when you start to become like Goodyear or any of those other mega corporations, because those larger mega corporations all started using direct response. And just down here in the bottom shelf, I've got a stack literally that high of old adverts from the early 1900s, from Goodyear, from all the major players that are still around, that still have survived to this very day. They all started using direct response. So they used direct response all the way up until they started making so much money that they didn't have to use direct response. And that's what people don't comprehend, is the reason why these big companies don't bother with direct response is because they're generating that cash flow is so huge that they don't have to worry about it. So they just go into the next level, which is branding. And the honest answer about how much money you would need to do a branding exercise, well, on the cheap end, if you wanted to think of terms as in the cheap date version of doing branding, you would need at least a bare minimum of $5 to $10 million per year. So if you have a spare $5 to $10 million a year, you just might get a small amount of market penetration. But if you were to put that $5 to $10 million into a direct response campaign, my golly goshness, you would probably get 10 times the return back in revenue within about an 18 or 24 month period if you had that type of cash flow. To give you an illustration of what the bigger companies spend, well, right here in Australia, Coca-Cola and Pepsi spend somewhere between $50 to $100 million a year in those flashy, slick advertising campaigns where they hire genetically gifted, athletically built human beings running on a beach playing beach volleyball, or out there surfing, or enjoying some sort of water sport, and just right at the moment where they look like they're perspiring and they need to quench their thirst, they just happen to have a Pepsi or Coke, and they crack open the can and guzzle it down. Have you ever noticed they never use old people in those videos? Have you ever noticed they never use the working class? It's always fit, young, and athletic, because they are selling a different type of sales message. They're branding. They're just letting you know that they are there. They're not asking you at the end of their advertisement, when you go down to your local supermarket or service station, please choose a Coke or please choose a Pepsi. Those guys have no idea when you do go to the fridge at your local service station or supermarket whether or not you do choose a Pepsi or a Coke. And the only way that they can actually get some rough idea is when they send all of their soft drink to major supermarket groups, and those supermarkets start selling their product on the shelf. By the time the supermarket has gathered the intelligence, as in the numbers, as in the volume that they are selling out of that one store, and if they've got multiple stores, they will wait for a period of time until they've got, say, 6 months worth of data of the amount of volume that they are selling of that one particular soft drink. they'll hand that information off to the company, or most likely the state sales representative. They will sit down and look at, okay, we sent this many cans of soft drink to the supermarket, and this is the response, which is typically 6 to 12 months after the fact. And that's how supermarket chains work. They gather the data and information over a 3 to 6 month period. They go through and tabulate what is happening within their supermarket stores at an individual level and also at an overall level. And that's how they do their forward planning for the next lot of orders that they want to order through. So that's a very time consuming, and you're waiting for a large block of time to expire before companies like Pepsi and Coke are actually able to get their data back. They might be able to get it back a little bit quicker today because of the information sharing that goes on, and with the advantage of technology, they might be able to speed that process up, but they're not going to get an instantaneous result of knowing exactly on a day by day. They might be able to break it down to as little as a week, but I wouldn't be hatching my chickens on that just at the very moment. And that's how branding is done. Branding is nothing more than, let me just see. So that's something for my bank. So I'm just going to use this as an example. And this is completely unsolicited, and I have no affiliation with this particular bank, but this is some junk mail. So the idea of branding is just to go like this. We're here, and we're just letting you know that we're here. And this is what they do virtually in their advertising on television, is they just flash the logo, and they hope that this logo and the colors somehow mean something to you. So when you think of banking, you somehow have this little symbol inside your head that you're going to go to that bank and you're going to give them some form of business, or there's going to be a transaction of goods or something else like that. That's what branding is. It's just letting people know that we're out here. We don't necessarily want you to come in, but we're hoping these corporate colors, we're hoping this symbol, this logo that we use is somehow going to be inside your head. And when you think of, I want to go and do some banking, or I want to get a personal loan, or I want to get a car loan, they are hoping that this symbol pops out of your head, smacks you straight in the face and goes, oh, we'll go to this particular company. That's how branding works, for real. So I would advocate, until you get to the mega corporation stage, when it gets to a point where you are generating that much cash flow that you can forget about direct response, I would suggest up until you get to that stage, regardless of who you are, regardless of what you're selling, use direct response advertising. In fact, the large tech companies like Google, YouTube, Yahoo, and all those other massive players in Silicon Valley, they are now resorting back to direct response. They are now resorting back to offline marketing, because they have noticed their response rate has been up here since 2003 up until about 3 years ago to 2020. The response has been quite consistent. But as social media has evolved and developed, it's distracting people's minds. It's distracting them from their day to day. So the tech companies have seen their response to their advertising go like this since about 2020. So they are now having to revert back to old school advertising and getting in contact with guys like me who know how to use offline marketing, like an expert samurai warrior, and just to make up the slack that they're losing online because of the distractions of apps and social media. So if the large tech companies are now going back to direct response, which is how they got going, because they've noticed a dip in their own branding, then what does that tell you? So always use direct response. You can do it for cents in the dollar. You can take out a Facebook or an Instagram or a YouTube ad, and you can advertise just as powerfully across all those media platforms as what the big companies are. But you have to remember, Direct response is always speaking about the benefits of the product or service that you have. Get that into your thick fucking skulls. Benefits. People buy benefits. They don't care about brand. They don't care about logo. They don't care about symbols. They don't care about corporate colors or what your mission statement is. They don't care about your company. They don't care about you. What they care about is they care about themselves and what they can get from you. So they have a little radio station inside their heads called What's In It For Me FM. And I believe that's a Dan Kennedy statement. What's In It For Me FM. That's all they care about. They don't care, they'll never care about a company. And all these branding experts will say, when there's a this and that, they'll start coming to you and you'll get sales automatically because they care. No one cares about companies. In fact, there's a lot of people who are actually anti-corporation now because of the cost of living going up so much and all these large companies and banks making a shit ton of money and the little guys getting squeezed. So everything's going to be, everything in the world economically and the way that things are happening in the world in general, everything's starting to slowly swing back to direct response because everyone's anti-corporation. Everyone hates the big guy because the big guy's churning over so much money, it's squeezing out all the little people. So, I got off on a bit of a tangent there. Use direct response, no matter who you are. There's like one guy called, actually I've got his thing down here that I can use as an example. So years ago, and I got this as a, because I was learning about marketing. So there was this guy called David D'Angelo. So his real name is Eben Pagan, and he come up with like a how-to dating thing. So besides studying a lot of psychology, he was actually a direct response copywriter and direct response marketer. And he marketed very successfully how-to information about picking up girls. And I've actually got another one of these. So he was selling he was an information marketer, and he would sell DVDs and audio along with little workbooks that taught guys how to speak to girls and how to pick them up. And I've got another one of these I'll pull out, so bear with me. So there's one on body language and there's one on approaching women and starting conversations. So I got these because I was curious of how this guy was making tens of millions of dollars a year selling basically information products. Yes, it's a very hot topic, but he was very smart in the way that he marketed and advertised himself, and he was using direct response. And I have a lot of his sales material, like the sales letters that sold these how-to courses. And later on, he was that successful that he later sold that company that he started from scratch on his own, from literally a kitchen table, and he sold that company for $120 million. So his real name is Eben Pagan. Look him up. I think he may be on YouTube, but his online persona name was David D'Angelo back in the day. Crank that up. He used direct response, selling nothing more than DVDs, audio CDs, how-to information books and courses on how to speak to women. He used direct response. And if he can generate tens of millions of dollars for a period of time and then later selling that company for $120 million, that clearly demonstrates the power and the effectiveness of direct response. Another example I would like to show, where the damn hell is it? Here it is. There's another guy in the direct response community, Vincent James. This guy started out and using direct response, and this is probably one of the most famous books that you could get back in the day, called The 12-Month Millionaire. a proven blueprint to earn quick fortune regardless of your credit, regardless of your finance, and regardless of your education, even in today's uncertain economic times. So this guy, his name was Vincent James, and he was a direct response copywriter. He started a supplements company selling like a pill that promised to do a particular thing, and he built that company up to over 100 mil. I believe it got to 150 mil using direct response. So he was making over $100 million a year selling a little supplement that done something for someone, and all he used was direct response. So that's the second example that I can think just off the top of my mind. And looking at some of the other marketing materials, I could probably sit here all day and go through example after example. One last example I'll give is this guy here, Corey Ruddle, or the late Corey Ruddle. He started a company called the Internet Marketing Center, and he developed this course. It's actually a two-part course, 2,000 pages in length. And what Corey done was he used direct response in a 12-month period to generate $60 million in sales. And what Corey did was, based on that success of generating $60 million online in the early 2000s, he developed this course. And this course is about 2,000 pages long, and it shows you old world direct response being used as the baseline, as the foundation of internet marketing. So there we go, that's another example. $60 million in sales in the early 2000s would be worth double or triple that in today's money, more like 180 million that he pulled in 12 months selling products and services. So that's three examples. A guy making $60 million in the early 2000s, right when the internet was taking off. Another guy selling a sports supplement pill, making over $100 million using direct response. Another guy selling how to pick up women information and psychology and other stuff as well, making that business also over $100 million. So that all ties in with direct response. None of those three examples that I've just shown had anything to do with branding or brand awareness. Those companies were later sold off for mega money. That's the power of direct response marketing and advertising. And it also clearly shows that even if you're trading over $100 million, these guys were still using direct response because that's what made their success. My name is Rob. I would highly advise you stay clear of branding until you get to the point where you're turning over at least $500 million a year. If you're not turning over $500 million a year, branding won't even be anywhere on the radar. Focus on getting sales. Selling is selling no matter what, as Gary Halbert would say. My name is Rob. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like, share, subscribe. This is another rapid fire marketing and advertising video. The video series for business owners who want more leads, more sales, more market share. You want to scale your business, or you could be the serious student of marketing. I am out.